Hello friends. Today I am gonna explain the movie named Jack Ryan the Ghost War, released in 2026. The story begins in Dubai. Inside an abandoned building, we see two men who had gone there to complete a secret mission. Here, let me tell you that there was a man named Nigel who was guiding both of them. Nigel tells his men that the ground team has arrived and they need to get out of there quickly. But now, they were not willing to back down. On the ground floor of the same building, we see a group of people. Among them was a man named Liam, who had arrived with his team to stop the two operatives. Upstairs, one man was keeping watch while the other, who was a hacker, was transferring data. At the same moment, Liam storms into the building with his men, and a shootout immediately begins between them. One of Liam's men easily kills one of the operatives. The only one left alive was the hacker, whom Liam personally shoots dead. Nigel already knew that both of his men had been killed, but the worst part was that the data transfer had not been completed. Liam shuts down the data transfer. The next morning, we are introduced to Jack in New York City. While he was out jogging, a black SUV suddenly pulled up in front of him. Jack assumed these people were dangerous, so he tried to run away, but he quickly found himself surrounded from both sides. When they forced Jack into the car, he came face to face with Jim, who was currently the deputy director of the CIA. The two of them had worked together before. However, Jack wanted to live a normal life, so he had left the job behind. Obviously, if Jim had come to meet him personally, it meant he had some kind of work for him. Jack immediately realizes this and refuses to take the assignment. But Jim tells him that he is going to Dubai, where he has a job for him. Once in Dubai, he has to meet a man who will hand him something, and then he simply has to bring it back. According to Jim, it was an easy task. He tells Jack that since they had worked together before, he trusted him. After resisting for a while, Jack finally agrees. Here, Jack meets Mike, who is assigned as his bodyguard. In a way, Mike would stay with him all the time to keep an eye on him. They take an evening flight and arrive in Dubai. The man was supposed to meet Jack at a party that night. Mike would not accompany him inside. Jack had to go in alone, while Mike stayed outside to monitor the surroundings. This is where we are introduced to Nigel, who had come specifically to meet Jack. The moment Nigel sees him, he approaches Jack, holds a knife against him, and asks who he is and where Jim is. Jack replies that Jim himself had sent him there. He says Jim told him that Nigel had something he needed to collect. Nigel responds by asking what exactly he is talking about. He says he knows Jack is working with those people too. After saying this, Nigel runs upstairs. Jack follows him and once again tells him to trust him. He insists that Jim sent him there because Nigel had something important to hand over. Jack says Nigel needs help, but Nigel replies that he doesn't need help. Jim does. After saying that, Nigel hands Jack an item, which turns out to be a pack of cigarettes. At that exact moment, someone appears from behind and kills Nigel. Instead of running away, Jack tries to help Nigel. That is when a woman named Emma arrives at the scene. She has a gun in her hand and orders Jack to surrender. But the moment Jack gets an opportunity, he jumps onto the attacker's boat. In reality, the people who came to kill Nigel were part of the same group. Jack fights one of them and eventually captures him. Jack demands to know who he is and who sent him. But before the man can reveal anything, Liam shoots him dead. The man was actually Liam's own operative, but Liam killed him to erase all evidence. Before Jack could react, Emma returns to the boat with her gun aimed at him. Jack no longer has any choice left, so he surrenders. However, before standing up, he secretly picks up the cigarette pack Nigel had given him and hides it in his pocket. Emma never notices this. At gunpoint, Emma essentially kidnaps both Jack and Mike. After this, we are shown Jim, who has already learned that things have gone terribly wrong with Jack's mission. At that same moment, Patrick arrives. Patrick works for Jim and has brought him an email. When Jim opens it, he realizes that it contains the Starling file. What exactly Starling is will be revealed later in the story. But for now, seeing that file leaves Jim completely shocked. Just then, Jim's phone starts ringing. The call is from Liam, who tells Jim to call back his two men. Jim lies and says he has no idea which men Liam is talking about. Liam tells him that Nigel gave them something, and he wants it back. He says that if Jim delivers that item safely, everything will be fine. Otherwise, one by one, Jim's officers will be killed. Jim still pretends not to know what Liam is talking about. After this, we see Jack and Mike again. Both of them are being held captive inside a safe house. Emma wants to talk to Jack, so she takes him outside. She shows him a picture of Jim and tells him that this man murdered someone in Karachi and is now risking Jack's life in order to save his own. Emma then asks Jack what he knows about Starling. Jack knows absolutely nothing, so he remains silent. Emma tells him that Jim sent him there without explaining anything. She shows him a photograph of the man Jim killed in Karachi. Emma explains that after September 11th, Nigel and Jim were selected to create an interagency task force. It was a Black Ops unit formed during a time of anger and chaos. In the early days of the war, they killed many people. But because of pressure from councils and committees, the program failed in Karachi, and Jim took the blame upon himself. He then pushed both Nigel and Liam aside. At present, the local police are searching for Jack. If you want to save your life, then you'll have to work with me. As for the rest of the questions, I'll get the answers from Jim myself. After this, we are shown Jim, who had just finished a meeting with CIA Director Elizabeth. He receives a phone call and is summoned to CIA headquarters. Next, we see Emma meeting with a CIA agent named Andrew. Andrew's job is to direct and coordinate CIA agents. The agents only move forward with operations based on his instructions. He was taking all of them safely to headquarters. On the way, he asks Emma if she used to work for Nigel. Emma replies that she was only keeping an eye on him. After arriving at headquarters, Jack goes to meet Jim. Jack was extremely angry because Jim had lied to him about many things. Jim tells him that he kept those things hidden for Jack's own good. After that, he hands Jack a file containing pictures of the same two men Liam had killed, the operatives who died inside the building during the mission. Jim explains that he had received those photos only 24 hours earlier. Because of those two men, Nigel learned that Liam had restarted Starling. Nigel knew he could never stop Liam directly, which is why he had only been monitoring the situation. However, Liam somehow found out about it. Right now, Jack was furious because he had been sent straight into the mission without being told anything, especially to Dubai. That was the reason he was angry with Jim, and the two of them get into a heated argument. Eventually, all of them are called into a meeting. Emma had recovered a pen drive from the men who came to kill Nigel. Inside the pen drive, they find a large number of files. There was a new file labeled London, along with maps and a lot of bank account information. At that moment, Jim tells everyone that he already knows about the entire plan. According to him, an extremist military faction had created this conspiracy. Their goal was to blow up a bridge in London, but Starling had prevented the attack. The bad news, however, was that Liam had restarted Starling once again. Because of this, Jim advises them to shut the bridge down immediately. Until the mission is completed, the bridge remains closed. After this, Jim calls Elizabeth and explains everything to her. He tells her that he first met Liam and Nigel in Karachi while they were tracking a Pakistani military group that was spreading terror across the world. They managed to capture the deputy chief of Pakistan, who gave them information that helped them stop a bombing in London just 3 hours before it was supposed to happen. However, during the interrogation, the Pakistani deputy suffered a heart attack and died. Jim took the blame upon himself, and afterward, Starling was officially shut down. But Liam never truly stopped the Starling operation. He believed that politics and diplomacy could never truly protect them. Liam felt betrayed by the others, and that is why he is doing all of this now. To solve the problem, Elizabeth was returning to London. After this, we see Jack and Emma sitting inside a van while keeping watch on a building. After a long time, a man finally walks out of the building. Mike was already positioned nearby. The moment he sees the man, he starts following him. When the man realizes Mike is tailing him, he tries to run away, but Mike chases him down and catches him. On the other side, we see Elizabeth, who had already arrived in London, and Jim had gone there to receive her. Jack then enters the building along with his full team. He was completely certain that they would find something important there. After breaking down the door and entering the building, they discover a room filled with weapons, bombs, and explosives. It was clear that a major attack was being planned. Meanwhile, Elizabeth was having a meeting with Jim. Once the meeting ends and Jim steps outside, he calls Jack. Jack informs him about everything they found inside the building. Jim starts wondering why Liam would leave something this important exposed so easily. Liam was far too clever to reveal his real plan like this. He realizes that Liam was only trying to distract them. The moment Elizabeth gets into the car, a massive explosion suddenly takes place. Jack hears the blast as well and immediately realizes that Jim might be in danger. That's why he rushes to save him. Fortunately, Jim had only suffered minor injuries. He was standing far enough away from the car, which is why he survived. However, he was unable to save Elizabeth, and she dies in the explosion. At that very moment, Jim notices Liam sitting inside his car, saluting him. Furious, Jim jumps into his vehicle and starts chasing Liam's car. A long, intense car chase follows between the two of them. Eventually, Liam's car crashes into another vehicle. After the crash, Liam gets out of the car and starts escaping on foot. Jim then tries to stop him by aiming a gun at him. But Liam's men suddenly arrive at the scene and begin firing at Jim. Although Jim takes cover behind a car, the non-stop gunfire keeps coming at him. Jim manages to take down several of them, but eventually his gun runs out of bullets. Now he has no options left. Death was standing right in front of him. But at that exact moment, our heroes arrive carrying heavy weapons. As soon as they step out, they open fire and eliminate everyone in sight. After that, Jack quickly rushes over and saves Jim. Giving him cover, he safely gets him out of there. Elizabeth's body is placed inside a coffin, and she is taken back to her hometown for her funeral. After this, everyone gathers at a place called RF, where they hold a meeting. After the incident, everyone finally understands that Liam had been planning everything from the very beginning. He had been watching all of them from the start. Nigel had learned everything about Liam, which is why he wanted to warn them by passing along the information so their agency could capture him. But before he could do that, Liam killed Nigel and is now reactivating all the terrorist groups that Starling had once shut down. At that same moment, a courier arrives for Jim. The package had been sent by Liam himself. From it, Jim learns where Liam wants to meet him. Jim does not go to the location alone. His team is secretly spread around the area. However, Liam had already figured that out beforehand. Liam arrived fully prepared, which is why they couldn't even get close to him. Liam tells Jim that if he wants everything to go back to the way it was before, then he needs to return the item Nigel gave him. Jim replies that he truly has no idea what Nigel handed over. Jack overhears the entire conversation. He walks up to Liam and tells him that the item is with him. Jack says Nigel gave it to him and that he accidentally left it behind in Dubai, but he can go and bring it back. Liam agrees and tells him to retrieve the item, saying he will contact him later. However, everything Jack said was a lie. We all know that Nigel had actually given him a pack of cigarettes, which Jack still had with him, and he later hands it over to Emma. But there was nothing special inside it. Nigel was only trying to distract everyone. He already knew Liam's men were watching him, so he handed over the cigarette pack to fool them all. He was definitely hiding something else, and now they needed to figure out what it was. At that point, Jim says that on the night Nigel's two men were killed, Nigel must have transmitted something before he died. He tells them to check the computers in Nigel's office because they might discover something important. Only Emma knew about Nigel's secret office, so she takes Jack there with her. When Jack checks the computers, he finds that nothing had actually been uploaded to the server. Instead, Nigel had been monitoring the transmission live. To trace the source of the network connection, Jack contacts Patrick, who is highly skilled in tracking and hacking. Jack sends him the connection details, and Patrick begins tracing the server. Afterward, Jack calls Jim and explains everything. Nigel had discovered Liam's entire network source, and he was trying to transmit that information live from Dubai. But Liam stopped him before he could complete the transfer. Now they would have to attempt the same thing once again. The next day, we learned that one of Liam's men had been spying on Jim. He was feeding every bit of information about Jim directly to Liam. Using satellites, Liam himself was also keeping an eye on all of them. By now, the entire plan had already been set in motion, and everyone split up. Mike went one way, while Jim headed somewhere else. Meanwhile, Jack and Emma boarded a private plane. They were flying to Dubai to retrieve the item and hand it over to Liam. At the same time, we see Jim heading back home. The moment he boards the plane, he contacts his allies. Once the entire plan is finalized, Emma calls Andrew and deliberately gives him false information because they had already figured out that Andrew was secretly working with Liam. From the very beginning, Andrew had been leaking every bit of information to him. Once again, Andrew passes the fake information Emma gave him directly to Liam. After arriving in Dubai, Jack and Emma meet an officer named Jamal, whose job is to safely escort them to their destination. On the way, Jack calls Patrick and tells him to continue tracking the server. Patrick immediately starts tracing it. Meanwhile, we see Liam moving out with his entire team fully prepared. He already knew that Jack and the others were definitely planning something. They all arrive at the same building we saw at the beginning of the movie, the building where the server had been hidden. The moment they enter the building, several armed men suddenly start firing at them. Bullets shatter the glass around them during the shootout. Jack manages to kill several attackers, but during the chaos, the glass breaks completely and Emma ends up hanging from a pole high above the ground. Thankfully, Jack catches her just in time and pulls her back up. At the same time, Liam arrives on the building's ground floor with his entire team. Using the elevator, Jack and his team move higher up inside the building. Meanwhile, Patrick successfully traces the server and informs them that the server is located on the very same floor they are currently on. Once they reach the location, Emma blows open the door. After that, Jack approaches the server and connects it to a tablet. He then begins transferring all the data directly to Patrick. At that exact moment, Liam arrives there with his entire team, and a massive gunfight breaks out. The shootout between both sides continues for a long time. Seeing an opportunity, Liam throws a grenade, causing a huge explosion. During the firefight, the data transfer is finally completed successfully. Outside the building, we see Mike operating a crane, which he uses to attack Liam's men. Another intense round of gunfire begins between both sides, and Jack manages to kill Ao. However, during the chaos, Emma is accidentally hit by a bullet. Wounded, she collapses to the ground. Jack is left with no other option, so he surrenders himself to Liam. But in reality, Jack was only pretending to surrender as part of a clever plan, something Liam was completely unaware of. Just outside the building, we see Jim arriving in a helicopter, fully prepared for battle. Using a machine gun, he unleashes continuous gunfire onto the floor where Liam and his men were located. Surviving that storm of bullets was almost impossible. Liam gets shot and is badly wounded. In his injured condition, he falls to the ground. After that, Jack walks up to him and shoots him dead with a gun. With that, the mission is finally completed successfully. After the mission is over, Jim appoints Jack as the new director of the CIA. And with that, the story comes to an end. Hop. Do you like the video? If you do, please like and subscribe my channel for new movie explanation. See you in the next video. Till then, bye-bye.